Welcome back to Respoiled. Today, I have another captivating story to share with you. But before we dive in, if you're new here, I invite you to subscribe to my channel and turn on notifications, so you'll never miss out on all of my latest uploads. Now let's get started. In New Orleans, a vessel named Genesis docks, unloading numerous enigmatic cargo containers destined for distribution across the city. Meanwhile, Biggie assembles a group of dealers, including Newt, unveiling the newest Superpower, granting individuals unique abilities for 5 minutes. Biggie generously distributes the uppers to the dealers for free, allowing them to set their own prices when selling. Later, Robin clandestinely leaves her home to peddle some power on the streets. 3 adolescent boys spot her petite stature and attempt to overpower her to snatch the uppers. A scuffle breaks out as Robin defends herself, but their altercation is halted by police officer Frank, who intervenes by brandishing his firearm. One of the boys attempts to ingest one, hoping to gain the strength to confront Frank, prompting him to caution about the dangers of power, which has harmed individuals or caused them to explode. The boy hesitates, prompting Frank to seize the power and apprehend Robin, leading the others to flee. After they depart, Frank releases Robin and discloses his friendship with her. He purchases power from her and surprises her with an old motorbike as a birthday gift. The following day, Art visits an apartment in the slums to find Newt, who, concealed behind the door, aims a gun at him and declines to divulge the source of power when questioned by Art. Despite the lock, Art gains entry and finds Newt severely disfigured due to his addiction, hoarding a large supply of power with an alligator as protection. Art intimidates Newt with a weapon, disarming him when he attempts to retaliate. As Art confiscates Newt's phone, Newt flees to another room and ingests power to trigger his ability, igniting his body. After a failed assault ignites a fire, Newt pursues Art throughout the building, resulting in Art plummeting from a ledge. Art clings to the edge and descends to the lower level as Newt's strength wanes, prompting him to ingest 3 more doses and pursue Art until a neighbor douses him with water. Capitalizing on the distraction, Art saturates his jacket in the bathroom, using it to submerge Newt in a filled tub. Initially resistant, Newt divulges that Biggie supplies the power after Art confronts him with force. As Newt convulses, Art flees just before Newt detonates, triggering traumatic memories of a past car accident involving his daughter. Meanwhile, Robin tends to her ailing mother Irene before heading to school. During class, Robin messages Newt requesting more power, but it's Art who responds using Newt's phone. Abruptly, the teacher singles her out for lack of focus, questioning her aspirations. A friend suggests Robin's talent in rapping, prompting her to improvise a verse criticizing authority and her teacher. Encouraged by her peers, Robin envisions their support, but soon realizes it's merely a daydream. The teacher demands Robin surrender her phone or face the principal's office. She opts to depart. Meanwhile, police converge on a bank where a criminal, armed with an unknown ability, holds hostages. Frank substitutes for a colleague, surreptitiously ingesting power and setting a timer. Sneaking in through the rear, he encounters the captives, unaware of the thief's nearby presence due to camouflage abilities. Struck by the perpetrator, Frank gives chase as the robber flees with the loot, tracking the bags relentlessly. The thief's shifting skin attracts attention as he dashes, colliding with civilians and snatching a bike. A car collision prompts him to abandon the bike for a tram ride. Upon inspecting the bag, a powder bomb detonates, revealing his position, allowing Frank to pursue on a bicycle. Stopping the tram, Frank presents his badge, causing the thief to flee through a cafe and into an alley. Frank pursues but stumbles, enabling the thief to seize his gun and fire. Frank's power renders him resilient, deflecting the bullet and enabling him to swiftly apprehend the suspect, employing extra force until halted by his captain. Following the incident, the captain reprimands Frank for resorting to power, demanding his gun and badge. Frank counters, highlighting the necessity of matching criminals' superpowers to level the playing field. He suspects the captain's knowledge extends beyond what he discloses, proposing clandestine collaboration to address such challenges off the record. The captain furnishes Frank with a photo of Art, identifying him as the suspected power supplier, urging his capture to resolve their issues. Later, Art loiters in the restaurant where Robin frequents to rendezvous with Newt. Observing Robin from a distance, he refrains from engagement. Unaware of Newt's absence, Robin prepares to depart, discovering her bike's slashed tire. Abruptly, Art seizes her, coercing her into his truck's trunk, transporting her to an isolated location, issuing threats to compel disclosure, including endangering Irene. Robin complies with Art's demands, divulging her limited knowledge that she obtained power from Newt but lacks further details. Subsequently, Art presents her with a photograph featuring a woman and a bald man, but Robin fails to recognize either individual. Amid their conversation, Robin discreetly messages Frank for assistance, prompting Art to confiscate her phone. Art then coerces Robin into dialing a number retrieved from Newt's phone, instructing her to feign distress as a drug dealer. In response, she receives directions to a designated supermarket and is instructed to inquire about alligator wine. The pair arrives at the market, where Robin requests the wine while Art becomes preoccupied with a customer, momentarily losing sight of Robin. She is escorted to the back to meet a man named Coelho, and instead of following Art's instructions to inquire about the source, she divulges information about the intimidating individual outside. Coelho consumes some power and confronts Art, who brandishes scissors in retaliation. Despite the arrival of Coelho's henchmen, Art proves to be a formidable fighter, engaging in hand-to-hand combat effortlessly. Simultaneously, the office Robin occupies begins shifting as it becomes apparent it's within a massive truck attempting to depart. She attempts to exit, but the door is secured shut. Meanwhile, Art persists in incapacitating or neutralizing the men, occasionally causing bullets to strike the truck, prompting Robin to seek cover to evade potential harm. After subduing all the henchmen, Art moves to check on Robin, providing an opportunity for Coelho to unexpectedly shoot him. Despite being struck by the bullet, Art perseveres, ultimately shooting Coelho to his demise. Subsequently, Art unlocks the door to free Robin, yet the agony induces hallucinations, leading him to mistake Robin for his deceased daughter, Tracy. Fortunately, Robin's voice brings him back to reality, and he observes another door, which he shoots open, revealing a hidden computer room equipped with monitors monitoring all power consumers. Art discerns that the distributor dispenses power gratis to utilize locals as test subjects for the product. They also uncover a notification indicating a presentation scheduled in approximately 2 hours. While Art is preoccupied with the screen, Robin rushes back into the market seeking assistance, only to be discovered and struck by Coelho. As Coelho prepares to stab her, Art intervenes, tackling him to the ground and repeatedly stabbing him until the effects of power wear off and Coelho succumbs. Unable to exit through the locked doors, Robin resorts to using a brick to break free. Art pleads for assistance and reveals his desire to reunite with his daughter as he offers Robin a sum of money before losing consciousness. Shortly after, Art regains consciousness in a veterinarian's office, where Robin tends to his wounds. Upon recovering, he departs for the event, with Robin compelling him to take her along by pilfering the car keys. Meanwhile, Frank grows concerned about Robin and visits her residence, where he overhears police officers harassing Irene. Frank covertly enters the house through a window, changes attire, and assumes the role of Irene's paramour, intervening on her behalf. He quietly informs her of his connection to Robin before challenging the officers, demanding to see their badges and a warrant for the camera. The officers promptly depart, prompting Frank to pursue them and affix the phone to their vehicle with tape for tracking purposes. During the journey to the event, Art discloses his past as a soldier subjected to experiments for power by a corporation named Telios. He recounts a harrowing experience where he consumed power and nearly perished, unlike his comrades who were not as fortunate. He eventually left the military and began anew. However, when Tracy was born, she inherited permanent powers from Art's genetic makeup. Learning of this, Telios sought to seize Tracy for experimentation, prompting Art to flee with her. Tragically, they were pursued and their car was forced off the road. Art was immobilized, forced to witness Tracy's abduction. As he recounts the ordeal, the lines between memory and reality blur, causing him to drive recklessly until Robin intervenes, averting a potential crash. They finally reach the presentation venue, where Art instructs Robin to remain outside. Inside, Art encounters resistance from a guard due to his absence on the guest list. Swiftly incapacitating the guard, Art discovers a Telios card amidst the documents. Donning the guard's jacket, he infiltrates the presentation under the guise of an employee. Biggie pitches power to a South American cartel leader, outlining his aspiration to propel humanity to the next stage of evolution. Utilizing DNA from various animals, they aim to imbue humans with superior survival abilities. Biggie seeks the cartel leader's investment to potentially develop a permanent iteration of power. Meanwhile, outside, Frank encounters Robin and attempts to persuade her that Art is responsible for power, but she dismisses his claims. Inside, Biggie instructs a woman to ingest power and enter a tank. Instantly, her skin chills, revealing her newfound ability to manipulate body temperature. As she playfully exhales frost onto the glass, Art quietly advances towards a bartender and dispatches him with an ice sculpture. Concealing a firearm beneath a tray, Art approaches Biggie, only to be recognized. Despite Art's threats, an employee discovers the body, prompting Art to subdue him and take him hostage instead. Weapons are drawn by numerous individuals in the room as Art menaces to eliminate Biggie, yet the cartel woman remains indifferent, intent on departing with the power case. Additional members of Biggie's entourage intervene to detain the woman, leading to one of them ingesting power and promptly detonating. This sets off a shootout between Biggie's faction and the woman's associates, resulting in heavy casualties on both sides, with Art also joining the fray. Amidst the chaos, 2 bodyguards shield the cartel woman to facilitate her getaway, while Biggie endeavors to flee, inadvertently dropping his tablet in the process. The tank begins to malfunction, causing the woman to lose command over her abilities. Despite her boyfriend's attempts to shatter the tank, she screams in agony. Art assaults the boyfriend while Biggie continues to elude him. Eventually, the frost engulfs the woman's body, gradually freezing her skin until she perishes. Seizing Biggie, Art interrogates him vigorously, but is interrupted when an employee strikes him, initiating a physical altercation. After incapacitating her with her own taser, Art resumes his pursuit of Biggie. He shoots off Biggie's fingers and presents the picture, prompting Biggie to identify them as Dr. Gardner, the project leader, and her bodyguard Wallace, who abducted Tracy. They are aboard the boat named Genesis, which houses the entire operation. Meanwhile, Frank enters and attempts to apprehend Art, but Art swiftly disarms him. Amidst their dispute over Robin, Biggie consumes a dose of power and undergoes a monstrous transformation, towering over the room and inducing tremors throughout the building. Bullets prove futile against him, prompting Art to flee while Frank catches up by sliding underneath Biggie. The pair dashes down a rear corridor, with Art releasing several gas canisters as they flee, while Frank procures some power. Upon reaching the exit, Art fires at the gas canisters, triggering a massive explosion that eliminates Biggie and sends a shockwave onto the street, with Biggie's hand landing on a nearby car. Following this, Frank apprehends Art, and despite Robin's attempt to intervene, Art instructs her to return home. As Robin mounts her bicycle, she spots Wallace among the officers and identifies him from Art's photograph, prompting her to tail him. Meanwhile, Art informs Frank that his captain will soon divert him elsewhere instead of the precinct. His forecast materializes, leading Frank to recognize his captain's affiliation with Telios corrupt individuals within the force. Frank eventually listens to Art's account and discovers that his daughter was the basis for creating power, a substance that could proliferate worldwide if left unchecked. They decide to collaborate and devise a strategy, enabling Frank to evade Telios men when they encircle the car. Later, Art boards the Genesis and encounters Gardner, the scientist who experimented on him in the military. Nearby, Robin observes the scene, while Frank, upon arrival, is upset to find her there. Despite a futile disagreement, Frank equips her with a special earbud to monitor the surroundings and report any developments. Subsequently, Frank consumes some power and approaches a guard, who shoots him before departing, leaving the door ajar, presuming Frank is deceased. Frank swiftly regains his composure thanks to his abilities but misplaces the earbud, linking him to Robin as he infiltrates the premises, incapacitating a guard by catching him off guard. Concerned about the severed connection, Robin opts to stealthily enter as well, concealing herself inside a van that is subsequently loaded onto the vessel. Inside, Robin explores the control room and discovers Frank restraining a group of unconscious laborers. Meanwhile, on the monitors, individuals accompanying Art request access, prompting Robin to discreetly press a button to maintain her cover. They discover a ship map and complete control over its doors, prompting Frank to arm himself with a gun and the earbud, relying on Robin's guidance as he ventures to rescue Art. Robin secures the hefty door for added safety after Frank departs. As alarms blare, Wallace consumes power to forcibly breach the doors. While observing various monitors, Robin locates Tracy but becomes distracted, allowing a powered guard to catch Frank off guard and swiftly disarm him. A futile hand-to-hand struggle ensues as Frank finds himself unable to inflict harm against the rubberized assailant. During the altercation, Frank misplaces the earbud once more, forcing Robin to communicate with him via the ship's speakers, which alerts Wallace to her whereabouts, prompting him to assault her door. Frank becomes ensnared in a resilient rubber grip, but he musters the strength to strike the assailant, freeing himself before dragging him toward a nearby door. Robin promptly shuts it, ensnaring the man's arm, which will inevitably break when the power wears off. As Wallace finally breaches the sturdy door, he finds Robin has shattered the computer with an axe and fled through the emergency hatch. As the ship lifts off, Frank consumes more power, retrieves his gun, and resumes his pursuit. Meanwhile, Art discloses he's concealed a dose of power in his mouth all along and persuades the guard to release him to evade the repercussions of his abilities. Just then, both Wallace and Frank locate him. Wallace strikes Frank before focusing on Art. Frank transfers his firearm to Art, who promptly fires 2 shots, swiftly dispatching Wallace. Returning to Robin, she explores the lab vicinity and detects an approaching guard, prompting her to conceal herself and seize the opportunity to incapacitate him from behind. Subsequently, she confiscates his keycard and gains entry to the lab chambers, where she locates Tracy and observes the scars resulting from the experiments. Initially cautious, Tracy's demeanor swiftly shifts to joy upon learning of her father's presence. Abruptly, Gardner also seeks Tracy, but the girls narrowly evade detection by concealing themselves beneath a hatch. As they flee, a withered plant miraculously thrives when touched by Tracy. They swiftly reach the deck and reunite with Frank and Art, who embraces his daughter warmly. Amidst navigating the containers, they encounter a guard whose bones transform into weapons. Engaged in combat, the guard severs Art's weapon with his bony appendages, prompting Art to arm himself with a metal rod for defense. Frank endeavors to guide the girls to safety in the lifeboat, shielding them from incoming gunfire. However, when Robin spots Art in peril, she returns to assist him. Using a hook, she incapacitates the guard, enabling Art to dispatch him with his own weapon. Subsequently, Art hastens to join the others in the lifeboat, but Robin is apprehended by the guards. Gardner demands Tracy in exchange for Robin's release. Art emerges, consuming power and acquiring the abilities of a pistol shrimp. With this newfound power, he evaporates the surrounding water, unleashing scorching shockwaves that swiftly eliminate the henchmen. Robin narrowly evades disaster as the containers collapse and a crane crushes Gardner. Overwhelmed by the excessive use of power, Art collapses, facing imminent death. Yet, Tracy swiftly heals him with her abilities, enabling the group to board the lifeboat and make their escape. Later, Art announces to Frank his intention to depart with Tracy to forge a fresh start. Frank resolves to expose the corruption within the force to a journalist. Meanwhile, Robin pledges to care for her mother with the money provided by Art as a gesture of gratitude. Don't forget to like, subscribe and enable notifications for more content like this. Thank you for watching.